Hey guys, it's your other Bria Serenity, and I'm back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be talking about God-ordained marriage, and there's a warning about fear of failure and fear of abandonment. In this dream, I was outside, and I was kind of like minding my own business. I wasn't looking for anything. I kind of was just going about my normal day. And I ran into somebody that I used to know from my past, and this person did not look the same as they did when I met them or when the last time I saw them. We had a deep history, but it was nothing serious. Like, it wasn't anything that was like relevant to me. You know, but to this person, it was very much so relevant. This person sees me, they run into me, and they have these big googly eyes, right? And they're super duper in love, and I'm not paying attention, right? I'm not paying attention. I'm just like, oh my goodness, it's so nice to see you. Very casual interaction. Tell me about your life, I tell you about mine. We catch up. I'm hearing about all the amazing things happening in his life. He's hearing about all the amazing things happening in mine. And the whole time he's just looking at me with these googly eyes. And I'm like, okay. I know he's attracted to me, but I'm like, then he tells me, hey, I'm getting engaged. And I said, oh my goodness, I'm so happy for you. You're going to be a husband. That's an amazing thing. You know, congratulations. And somehow we end up going back to, I believe, his mother's house. And this was not his biological mother. So this was a spiritual mother or some form of counsel for him. Somebody who oversaw him at some point in his life, because it was not his biological mother. I also knew her as well and greeted her. And I said, it's so nice to see you again. It's been a long time. You look great. I know you're happy and proud of your son. He's getting ready to get married. And she said, yeah, he's getting ready to get married. He told you? And I said, yeah. I was like, I know you're happy. And she says, yes, I finally get my house back to myself. I'm about to be an empty nester, and he's finally growing up. Like, he's growing up. And I said, I know that's right. I know you're so proud of him. And so she said, his fiance is right over there. And I said, where? And I look over at the couch, and it's this woman with an old face. It looks like Benjamin Button, right? Benjamin Button with a young woman's body. So her body looks her age, but her face does not. I kind of was like really confused and taken aback when I saw her, and I was like, oh, it's nice to meet you. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you. You know, blessings to you and your, you know, your spouse or whatever in your future endeavors. He begins to talk about his plans that he has for this ministry that he felt called to. And he begins to talk about how he felt called to care for the elderly and for the people who were recovering from some type of injury, because he had a time in his life where he was injured. He had a time in his life where he was disabled, and he didn't have anybody to look after him. And he kind of went through some really dark times by himself. And I said, oh, that makes sense as to how you could have met this woman, you know, while you were going through that. You guys probably crossed paths, you know, if you were in these places with a lot of elderly people or people who cared for elderly people, you guys probably made a connection, you know, that way. Makes sense. I was like, oh, that's so amazing. I know God's going to see you through. You know, I'm getting ready to head out. It was nice seeing everybody. I'm leaving. So I'm getting ready to go to my car. And this man stops me. I'm like, did I forget something? Like, what's going on? And he was like, I need to tell you something. What's going on? He's like, he starts professing his feelings for me. And I'm taken aback. I'm sitting here like, whoa, 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 whoa. What are you saying? We just saw each other for the first time, and I don't know how long, and you're outside telling me that you have feelings for me? Like, no. He's like, you don't understand. Like, my feelings for you never went away. They never went away. They've always been there. It's always been you. It's always been you. And me seeing you again has made me realize that I've always loved you. And I kind of was like, I don't know. Like, what do you want me to do with that? You know, like, I'm in the dream, like, what do you want me to do with this? It was funny because I'm reacting in the dream how I would react in real life. Like, okay, you have feelings for me. What do you want me to do with that? What am I supposed to do with that? He's like, I'm getting ready to call off my engagement. I was like, what? And he's like, I'm getting ready to call off my engagement. I said, are you sure you want to do that? I don't think that's a good idea. And he's like, I'm sure. I've never been so sure about anything ever in my life. And so I start to feel a lot of pressure and anxiety. And I'm kind of like, hold on, what? Wait, whoa. I just saw you, and now you're professing feelings for me. You're getting ready to call off an engagement with a woman that you have so much history with. You were just in there telling me how you had plans to start a ministry. Now you're telling me that you're getting ready to just throw it all away. You're getting ready to just call it all off. And he's like, you don't understand. I'm just giving you a heads up. I'm letting you know what I want and what I'm willing to do in order to make this happen. Okay, what do you expect from me? You know, what are your expectations of me? Do you expect me to just marry you? You call off your marriage? What you gonna propose to me? What you gonna do to me? What you just did to her? Like, I'm starting to like, my mind is going a million miles a minute. And I personally am one of those women where it's kind of just like, if your words don't match your actions, we're going to have a problem. Like, if you're saying all this stuff, but you're not doing anything, we're going to have a problem. If you're doing a lot of stuff and you're not saying anything, we're still going to have a problem. I need both communication and action. And so I'm kind of just like, I need you to explain to me what's going on. Like, what do you expect of me? Do you want us to get married? And, you know, we're going to be in a relationship. You want me to jump the room with you right now? Like, before you even came into my life, I wasn't even thinking about you. I'm not even sure how I feel about you. And he's just like, it's okay. I know how I feel about you. and I know how this is gonna go. I know you are the one for me. He was so sure. Calm, he's patient, he's sure. He's like, look, don't even worry about it. I know what I have to do in order for us to be together. I'm just putting you on notice. I start feeling all this pressure be what he needs of me to be. I start feeling all this pressure to get married, all this pressure to be in a relationship or whatever he's going to expect for me to do. And I start like panicking almost, because now I feel obligated to be married. He's throwing away a whole engagement for me. I have this fear of failure starts to arise in me. This fear of what if this doesn't work starts to arise in me. He's going to resent me. In this dream was somebody that I walked away from multiple times. Like, this was somebody I kept walking away from. Like, somebody that I was just like, yeah, you're not doing what I want. You're immature, or whatever the case may be. And I will always walk away because it just wasn't the right time, or they just weren't mature, or I wasn't mature and things were just not going right. And so we were young and I'm like, okay, deuces, I'm out. So this time I'm like, okay, this is serious. This is not like all the other times. This time, this is a very serious commitment. And so now I feel pressure to make this work. I'm like, I have to make this work because he sacrificed all these things to even have an opportunity for us to be together. I'm like, but I don't even know how I feel about him. I didn't have any feelings about him before he just popped up in this door. But I'm like, but all of a sudden he has all these feelings for me. What am I supposed to do with this? I'm sitting here like, God, what am I supposed to do with all of this? He's doing a lot, but he's not saying a lot. And I start feeling this pressure. Why is he willing to risk so much to be with somebody who's unsure about him? You know what I'm saying? Why are you willing to risk and throw all these things away to be with me? And we just saw each other, right? We just saw each other. How could you be so sure? You know, I'm not sure. So how could you be so sure? He's still taking actions and taking steps towards this because he's like, I've never been so sure about anything in my life. What if this fails? What if we don't work out? What if you give all this up, you blow up your spot, and then we start dating and we realize we're not compatible? You know, what if it's just how we were when we were kids? You know, when we were kids, you know, I was constantly walking away from you and leaving you whenever you were acting a fool, or whenever you weren't measuring up to my expectations, or whenever you couldn't give me what I wanted, you know, I would walk away, or you would do something that was suspicious, I would walk away. He was like, it's not going to be like that this time. He's saying this as calm as ever. He's bearing all the fruits of the spirit, and I'm panicking, right? I'm panicking because I'm like, what is going on? This is happening so fast. Like, what about your engagement? What about your fiance? Isn't she going to be like heartbroken? How long have you been with her? Aren't you going to be upset for not being with her this long? Like, how long have you guys been together? Aren't you going to need some time to like heal and like detox from the woman that you were just with? Like, how could you just go from one woman and jump to a marriage, or jump to a serious relationship, or jump into this with another woman, or start pursuing another woman when you were just talking about being engaged? He's just sitting there calm, like, look, I'm telling you, I'm sure about you. I want you. And my mind is still going 1,000 miles a minute. I start having this fear of abandonment. I'm like, so what, you gonna leave her, get into a relationship with me? What you think you're gonna do to me, what you just did to her? Because you think that you got nothing coming. In that dream, there were a lot of things that I did not know about the current relationship commitment that he was currently in. So of course, from my perspective, it looked like you're just jumping out of this, and you were so in love with this woman, you were willing to marry her, and now you're trying to come over here and be with me, and you trying to come over here and be with me after you just did a woman like that. You got nothing coming, and we ain't happening, bucko. If you think for 1 second you gonna do to me what you did to her, I promise you another thing coming. If you think you gonna come over here and play with me, like I'm talking to this man like, you got nothing coming. I don't know what you think this is, but it ain't that. Okay, it ain't that. And he just looking at me like, girl, I'm so in love with you. I'm so in love with you. You don't even know, girl. I'm so in love with you. I'm about to put, girl, we finna get married. You finna have my kids. Yeah. I'm so sure about you. I ain't never been sure about anything in my life. And the whole time I'm looking at him like, I don't know what you looking at, because I feel like you trying to play with me. Like, it's funny, like, oh my goodness. And it was funny because this is how I would react in real life. Like, I'm really talking to this man like, you don't even think you trying to play with me. I think you trying to play with me, but I need to let you know. I need to let you know this ain't that. Okay, God don't play about me, and I don't play with people. So don't come over here trying to play with me. Oh, Jesus. Mother was also trying to like warn him like, hey, are you sure you want to do this? You know, you could just stay with this woman. You know, she's going to put up with you, like, and she'll stay with you forever. She's not going to expect anything from you. She's not going to require much of you. But, you know, in order to be with somebody like a Bria, you got to like meet a certain requirement. You know, you have to be a better man. You have to strive towards holiness. You know, she's a woman of God. You can't just be out here doing stuff that you used to do. Like, are you sure about that? I don't want to see you get hurt. You know, she's not going to put up with like any of the stuff that you used to do in the past. Are you sure you're ready for that level of commitment? And he's like, look, I'm sure. Like, telling this woman like, I'm sure about her. Dream goes on, and so I end up running into his ex-fiance later in the dream. She actually comes to my father's house to see me face to face, and so she's questioning me about a photograph. Like, she's questioning me about something that this man has. Like, it was a photograph and it looked like a nude photograph. And she said, yeah, it's something, I want it back, it's mine, I'm trying to get it back. And I'm like, okay. So I start going through his belongings and I see this brown journal, and I open up the journal and there is a photograph there, but it's not a photograph, it's a painting. And it's a painting that's a very disturbing like painting, but it's a painting of this woman. It's in his personal journal. So apparently he painted this picture. This is his painting. It doesn't belong to her. So I'm looking at this painting like, this looks like her, but it ain't her. Like, this painting is really disturbing. This is not what she really looks like. And this picture, she was also exposed, and her hair was all over the place. It was just like a really weird painting. I'm like, why would she want this back? Right? I ended up not giving her the painting because I'm like, I don't think this belongs to her. I'm not going to give this to her. And so when she couldn't get the painting back, she began to go after my personal belongings. Like, I had a little black journal sitting on the dresser, and she tried to take it. And she said, well, since you have that, I'm going to take this. And she tried to use what was in the journal against me. And I kind of was like, no, you can't have this journal. It belongs to me. She said, well, you have that. I have that. I'm going to take this. And I was like, no. So we started going like this tug of war with my journal, you know, with my personal information. And she's just like, tug of war. Eventually she didn't get it, but she was attempting to get personal information about me to use against me because she could not recover this image or this photograph. After that, I woke up from the dream. There is a lot of symbolism in this dream. Okay. A lot of symbolism. A lot of it is about marriage, but a lot of this is also like a symbolic representation of Christ's love for us, and how sometimes fear of abandonment and fear of failure can get in the way of the things the Lord wants to do for us. Our walk with him, how it can interfere with things that he wants to do, things he's trying to tell us, things he's trying to show us, and what he's willing to do for us, and how we are so hindered when it comes to doing things in order to be on one accord with him. So one of the scriptures he gave me is Genesis 2:24, where it says, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall become one flesh. I'll break down this verse. Okay, a man has to leave his father's house in order to be a leader in his own home and to have leadership over his own family. Okay, a man cannot exist in another man's home and then claim to have dominion over his family, because that man has dominion over him, therefore having dominion over his family. Okay, so a man has to step out on his own. He has to have his own. He cannot do that if he is not willing to depart from his father's house or his mother's house. Okay, a man also must come from under his mother. He cannot be coddled. He cannot be nurtured by his mother continuously and be under his mother's influence when trying to be one flesh with his wife. Okay, so if this is a man, you know, even if a woman, you have to come from underneath your mother. You have to be able to break free from what is familiar, the people who are a comfort to you, the people who give you direction. And at some point you have to take a leap of faith and separate yourself from that and say, they've given me all the necessary tools. They brought me up well, and now I have to walk this out on my own. They cannot hold my hand anymore. If I want to be able to steward this marriage correctly, if I want to be able to be one flesh with my wife, I have to be able to separate myself from the other people that I'm connected to, right? He has to depart from what is familiar, old ways, familiar places and people, and cleave to his bride so he can become one. Okay, the process of becoming one is not just consummation. Some people believe that you become one flesh when you have sex, right, with your partner on your honeymoon. But you become one flesh long before consummation. You become one flesh when you are on the same page and you develop the same rhythm without interference from the outside. And that's how our walk with Christ is supposed to be. Okay, we are supposed to be able to be on the same page as Jesus Christ. We're supposed to have a rhythm with him, a flow with him that cannot be easily interrupted. Okay, something that cannot be easily broken, something that cannot be interfered with by your mother or your father or your siblings or things that are familiar to you. We have to be on the same page as Jesus Christ. We have to be on the same page as our husbands, right? Or your wife, or whatever this may apply to you. And in order to do that, you have to separate yourself from things that are familiar. You have to separate yourself from things that are going to keep you from being one with him or being one with your spouse. The Lord also led me to Luke chapter 10 verses 40 through 42, where it was talking about Martha and her sister, and how Martha was carrying a lot of work, you know, on her own. She was doing a lot of things on her own, and her sister had left her to do all this work and was doing something that seemed insignificant to her, but to Jesus it was pleasing. Like, the Lord was like, hey, don't look down on what she's doing. She has chosen her part and she's being just as helpful as you are. You're worried about a lot of things, right? You're worried about so many things, but what she's doing is a good thing. The Lord said the man in this dream was busy. He was busy making sure he was tying up loose ends, busy making sure he had a smooth transition right? From one life to the next, making sure that he had no loose ends, making sure that he was getting rid of everything from his past life to pursue a new life with this woman he really wanted to be with, this woman that he was so sure about, the woman he was really to risk everything to be with, even though this woman was like overly worried. Dream, I have been single for a long time and without someone for a long time. And so this man just hopping into my life after I've done so much work, you know, I'm watching him do some of these things and it seems insignificant to me. Not enough to put my mind at ease. It's not enough to give me that certainty that I desire from him, because I'm like, he's not doing enough to make me believe that he's the one. He's not doing enough to make me sure that this is what the Lord wants for us, that this is really going to work. You know, I'm worried about a million things. In that scripture, it says, why is my sister not helping me? But Jesus said, you are worried about many things, but one thing is needful, and Mary hath chosen that good part, which shall not be taken away from her. Things that this man is doing should not be taken away from him. It should not be seeming insignificant, right? The Lord is like, you're worried about so many things that you're looking down on the things that he is doing, and the things that he is doing is pleasing to me, even though it may seem insignificant to you. And it seems insignificant because you're so fearful and you're worried about so much. You stop worrying so much, you can begin to see it from the perspective I need you to see it from. So in previous seasons, this person was busy, focused, and or unavailable to you, and it may have caused you to overlook, turn away, walk away, or not take this person seriously. But they were busy with good things. The Lord said they were busy with good things. In my dream, I walked away from this person before due to spiritual immaturity, indecisiveness, and not being on the same page. The Lord also led me to Songs of Solomon chapter 8 verse 4, where it says, I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, that ye stir not up nor awake my love until he please. This verse emphasizes a call for patience in love, urging us not to force love before its proper time. Love should unfold naturally, and so should affection. Some things need time to develop. So even though I was worried about so many things, I was putting pressure on myself to be ready right then and there, to have everything, to feel everything right then and there, to be exactly what I felt like I was expected to be right then and there, even though this man never put that pressure on me. He was just like, look, I just want to be with you. I'm willing to be patient. I'm willing to bear all things in order to be with you, understanding that I had time. You know, things were going to unfold in its perfect time and everything was going to be okay. In this dream, I was not thinking about this man, and in the past he was trying to be with me when he was still immature and not ready, so I left. However, his love for me never went away, even though we went our separate ways. It was not the time for us to be together, and we were not ready. And so now this man suddenly comes back into my life. He suddenly approaches me and he's like, okay, let's do this. And I'm like, whoa, yeah, I don't know if I want to do this. Is this really the right time? Is it ever really going to be the right time? You know, and when you have fear in you about abandonment, or you have fear of failure, nothing is ever going to seem like the right time. You know, the right person can approach you, but if that fear of abandonment and that fear of failure is not dealt with, nothing is ever going to seem like the right time, and nothing is ever going to seem like worth the risk. Ever. Always going to be suspicious. You're always going to be like, I don't know. You're going to overthink and be worried about many things. And not seeing it from the right perspective, and then rob yourself of plenty of opportunities to be loved, or to have love, or to have friends, or whatever this may be. This is also a reflection of how our relationship with Jesus can be. Like, Jesus comes into our lives, and then, you know, Jesus is like, okay, this is the right time. The time is always now. And so we get afraid, right? And we think everything that we were supposed to feel for Christ is going to be instant. Everything that we're supposed to be doing for Christ is going to be right now. That everything's going to fall into place right now. So we start having this pressure to do everything right, to check all these boxes, and we start being religious, and we start applying works and not faith. We put all this pressure on ourselves to be perfect, to get it right. And Jesus is like, you don't have to get it right. Jesus is like, you don't have to get this right. There's no pressure on you to get this right. I just want you. This is what Jesus has been telling some of us for so long. Jesus is like, I just want you. I just want to be with you. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to get this right. There's no pressure, right, for you to do everything right. You don't have to check all these boxes to be with me. Right? I am accepting of you as you are, and I'm loving you. I'm so sure about you. I'm willing to risk everything to be with you. I was willing to die on the cross to have a relationship with you. That's how much I love you. This dream, this man was willing to give away his old life, to do away with his old life, to have a new one with this woman, to risk everything to be with her. And this is a good reflection of how Jesus loves us. And he's like, I died on the cross so that I could be with you. I didn't die on the cross so you could be perfect. I didn't die on the cross so you could limit yourself and put yourself in this box and have all this fear about what you need to be and what you need to measure up to. Right? I just love you as you are, right? And if you allow me to walk with you, things will develop over time. Over time, you will develop. Over time, the affection will grow. Over time, you will begin to build a relationship with me, because relationships are about building. Relationships don't just fall into place like the moment you see them. Like, everything isn't just as it is in that moment in time. Relationship with Jesus Christ grows. It continuously grows over time. The important thing to remember is that you are going to develop that love and that affection for Christ, the same love that he has for you over time. If you just give it some time, if you just keep going and you trust him and you walk with him and you not allow your mind to be worried about being perfect, to fitting into this box, to exceeding all these expectations that he didn't even place over you. And that's the thing, like in this dream, I had all these expectations that the man didn't even put over me. I put them on myself. But all that fear came from expectations I put on myself. This man didn't put any expectations over me. Right. And Jesus didn't have any serious expectations over us. Right. We put them on ourselves and we feel like we have to be perfect. We feel like we have to check all the boxes. Right. And we put ourselves in these positions where it's all about works and not about faith and not about relationship, not about connection. Right. And we don't allow ourselves time to actually develop a relationship with him. We're more concerned about failing. We're more concerned about being perfect. We're more concerned about getting it right. Even when I would run away from this man, even when I ran away, you know, in the past, when I would separate myself from him and I'm like, oh, I'm not ready, you're not ready, or whatever the case may be, he never lost his love for me. And Jesus never loses his love from us. What's that scripture? It's a scripture that was saying there's nothing that can separate us from the love of God. Nothing. And even when we separated and even when we went our separate ways, this man still loved me just the same as if he saw me yesterday, like apart for all that time, and he still loved me. This is what it looks like to have a man that loves you in a biblical way. No matter what you do, there's nothing that you can do to separate yourself from the love that he has for you, because the same love he has for you is the same love Christ has for you. When it comes to God ordained marriage, very important that we do not wake love before it's time. And I think I've talked about this before, where I was saying this person has to be willing. There may have been a time where you were ready and your spouse wasn't, and you're just like, this can't be the person for me. This just must not be the person for me, because if they were supposed to be the person for me, then they would have been that person for me at that moment in time. They would have got it together at that moment in time, but maybe it wasn't the right time. I'm not talking about limerence. I'm not talking about false hope. I'm talking about literally you guys were not in the right space where you could have done anything with each other. Maybe you were spiritually immature. Maybe they were in a situation. Maybe you just weren't ready. Maybe they were too young. Maybe there was a work the Lord was still trying to do in the both of you before he could bring you together. Because if he had brought you together any sooner, it would have been destructive, right? A lot of back and forth, a lot of leaving, I'm leaving, no, I'm coming back, I'm leaving, I'm leaving, I'm leaving. It would have been a lot of confusion, a lot of turmoil, and the Lord did not want that for either party. Old lady, in the old face in the dream, the Lord led me to 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17, where it says, there, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new. And all things are of God, who have reconciled us to himself by Jesus Christ and have given to us the ministry of reconciliation. This man approached me in the dream. He came back fit and in shape. He was a new creation and not the man I once knew. He had matured. He was more handsome and stronger mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. He had a sense of direction and knew what he was supposed to be doing. I was proud of him in a platonic way. He knew what ministry he was called to, caring for the elderly and the disabled. This may be literal or symbolic of people who struggle with infirmities, addiction, and abandonment, people who do not have family to care for them or look after them, healing ministries and deliverance ministry. Many people who get called to deliverance ministry got called by experience or encounter and not by chance, because they didn't have anyone to help them. They had to seek out help in a different way. The woman he was seeing was someone he met while he was still in a dark place and formed a trauma bond with her, and she began tagging along until he ran into purpose. This old woman represents the old ways, the old things that will be passed away, an old life that he was once connected to, right? He formed a trauma bond with somebody while the Lord was still working on him, and she just kind of tagged along during his journey, and she just kind of found herself in this position with him. He thought that he was sure that this was the thing for him until he ran into purpose. Until he ran into purpose, he understood this was not the direction he was supposed to take. It was more of a confirmation. The dream, I was really anxious. I'm like, how do you know? How could you be so sure? She had not known. I had not known that he had been struggling, trying to figure out what path to take for so long before he had even been in connection with me, before he even ran into me. The day he ran into me was confirmation for him. Me, it was just sudden. For me, it was just sudden, but for him, it was confirmation. The Lord had already been dealing with him before he had even ran into me. He ran into me and understood that there was purpose assigned to me, and he knew what he needed to do and for what reasons and what he needed to take care of, even though it did not make sense to me at the time. The woman also represents his old ways. She was a part of the world. So this was a worldly woman that he was with, and she represented his old ways, old familiar things, things that he used to do. Even though he was pursuing ministry and she was tagging along, didn't necessarily mean that she was in alignment with him, does not necessarily mean that's what she wanted. The dream, she wasn't doing anything. She was just there. Some of these people that are in your spouse's lives are literally just there because they've been tagging along, and your spouse has not done what they needed to do to rid themselves of these people because they don't see anything wrong with this person being in their life still. They have not ran into purpose yet. Sometimes the Lord needs to have them run into people, have person encounters, divine encounters for them to get the message. Maybe the Lord has been tugging on their heart, showing them like, hey, this person can't come with you. Hey, you can't go the direction with this person. Hey, this person is not the person I need you to be doing this with. And maybe they didn't get it until they ran into the person that they're supposed to be with. And sometimes our walk with the Lord can look like that too, where we think we're going the right direction. We think we're doing the right thing. And then all of a sudden we run into purpose. All of a sudden we run into something that seems better. We run into something that says, hey, I thought I had something good, but this looks way better. Like I thought I had a piece of something. I thought I had something going. And now I've run into purpose. I've run into something that's bigger than me. I've run into something that only God could have orchestrated for me, that only the Lord could have given to me, something that I've been praying about, something that only the Lord would have known was in my heart, right? And now it's right in front of my face. And I would be a fool to not pursue. I would be a fool to deny him. I would be a fool to not walk with him. I would be a fool to not walk in my purpose, knowing that it's landed right in my lap, knowing that I'm coming face to face with these things, right? Spouses and just regular people alike are coming face to face with purpose. Not even just a spouse, but you're coming face to face with purpose. And you're kind of like, I would be a fool to not leave my life behind to go pursue purpose. I would literally be a fool to look at what the Lord has put in front of me and say, I'm going to stay over here. I would be a fool to do that. And so a lot of these spouses are coming face to face with purpose, not just a spouse, but coming face to face with purpose, not even in the form of a person, but it could just be in an encounter with Jesus Christ. Like, oh my goodness, I have come face to face with Jesus Christ. I have come face to face with purpose, and I want to pursue this, and I will get rid of whatever I have to get rid of in order to pursue this thing wholeheartedly, passionately, and I'm not turning away, and I've never been so sure about anything in my life. Some of us are fearful, like, oh, should I really take this leap? Should I really follow him? I'm not really sure if I want to follow Jesus. I'm not really sure if I can commit to this. I'm not really sure if I can measure up to this assignment, to this purpose that he's calling me to. We're nervous, right? We have big shoes to fill, and we're not sure if we can fill it, but the Lord is saying, yes, you can. And everything is going to be all right. Stop worrying about so many things, Martha, right? You're worried about too many things. In this dream, the Lord also wanted to emphasize that everything is not as it seems, right? So I'm looking at this engagement. I'm thinking like, oh, he has this history with her. He's so in love with her. You know, from the outside, it looks a certain way. But even in this dream, like there were some things that happened towards the end where it made me realize I didn't know, you know what I'm saying? I didn't understand, you know, that there was really some things going on behind the scenes that I had to like catch wind of. You know, there were some things that were going on behind the scenes that he did not communicate with me that I was not aware of. So there may have been some things going on behind the scenes already. It may look like he was so in love. He was so sure and thrilled to be engaged. But you just never know. You know, you just never know what's going on behind somebody's life. So not look at the surface level of something and think that you know all there is to a situation and get so caught up in your mind that you're just so sure, right, about what you're seeing and just getting bucked. Like in my dream, I was like, you got nothing coming if you think you finna do to me what you did. Da, da, da. Like not even understanding what was going on in that situation. The Lord also emphasized a really heavy theme of reconciliation. A person is going to take major steps to be with the person the Lord wants them to be with without interference. Okay, that means there is nobody influencing them to do anything other than God. His mind is made up. He was so sure about the woman he wanted to be with. He had never been sure of any woman the way he was sure about her. And this is also a reflection of how we are being reconciled back to God in this hour. There are so many people who are getting reconciled back to Jesus Christ, right? So many people who were not sure about him, they're getting ready to be sure, right? They're getting ready to be reconciled. Okay. Also for people who are standing for marriage, some of you are getting ready to be reconciled, and this person is going to have their mind made up. There's not going to be anybody in their ear. They're not going to be able to say, oh, this person told me to do this, or this person been telling me to do this. They are going to have a made up mind. They are going to be so sure. And when a man pursues a woman without ill intent, there is no confusion. There is no mind games. There's just a lot of action. And he will do more and talk less, and he will bear the fruits of the spirit. Okay. For a woman who is used to men who are always manipulating her mind and just playing on her emotions and talking nonsense in her ear, that can be overwhelming when you're only used to a man who talks. And you're not used to a man who's taking action, right? It could be really overwhelming to have a man that's just actually doing stuff and saying less. These people will know what needs to be done, and it won't come with any mess. And the Lord led me to Proverbs 10:22. It says, the blessing of the Lord, it maketh rich and addeth no sorrow with it. So when these things happen, even though it may look crazy, it may look uncertain, it may look sudden, there will be no sorrow that comes with this. None. If it comes with a lot of mess, if it comes with a lot of sorrow, it may not be from him. You may need to test the spirit. You may need to reevaluate the situation. You may need to reevaluate yourself and ask yourself, how did I get here? How did I get myself into the situation? Lord also wanted to talk about fear of abandonment and failure and these mixed emotions that I was having in this dream. Because there was a history between me and this young man, I was always willing to walk away. While I felt bad, I knew it was necessary for both of us at the time. Remember, do not wake love before it's time. Fear crept in and I began to question everything, including him. Am I going to stay? Is he going to trigger my fight or flight? But somehow he understood what I was feeling without saying a word. He was really patient, wasn't trying to rush or manipulate me. His certainty brought me a sense of peace. He took time and thoroughly thought this through. I had a lot of fear about failure. I did not want to take this risk so suddenly and fail. That would crush me, and he knew this. The man in the dream knew that I had a fear of abandonment, that I had a fear of failure. And so I was really caught up about this, but without him having to say a word, he understood this. Without him having to say a word, he understood what I was feeling. He understood my emotions, just how Christ understands our emotions when we're following him, when we're walking with him and things seem so uncertain. He gets us. He understands us. And sometimes we kind of like withhold our emotions from Christ. When we're praying, we pray about certain things, but we forget to really bear it all. Like we literally hold back in our prayers. We forget to pray about how we're feeling. Like, this is how I'm feeling right now. And sometimes even without saying a word, you know, the Lord will address how we're feeling and show you how you're feeling. Just how he showed me some of the things I was dealing with, because fear of abandonment and fear of failure was definitely something I dealt with in the past. It's something I still currently deal with sometimes when I'm faced with something that's really risky or something that's unfamiliar and I have to come back to myself. And fear of failure can come in between what God wants us to do in our relationship with him. He wants us to know that he understands our fears. He understands our concerns. He understands that, and he's so patient and so loving with us that sometimes he doesn't even have to say a word. He exhibits his love. He just exhibits his patience. He just gives us examples, and he just continuously shows us what type of God he is. And he continuously shows us just what type of love he has for us. And he desires to send us a spouse who can model the same thing. So for those of you who are standing for marriage, who have not met your spouse yet, or maybe if you even do know your spouse is going to be the same way. They're going to be extremely patient with you. They're going to be so loving. They're going to be so gentle. They're going to be so kind. They're going to be so understanding. They're going to be so in tune with you that even when you seem like you're being a little paranoid, when you seem like you're leaning into that fear, they are going to have so much peace that their certainty about you is going to bring you comfort. It's going to let you know that everything is going to be okay. So back to the other woman in his life. End of the dream, I ended up running into the other woman, or she came to see me at my father's house. Father's house usually represents a church or a place of safety. The painting that she wanted was a picture drawn of her, but it did not look like her. In this photograph, she was exposed and it was not flattering. It was a drawing in this personal journal that she was trying to retrieve. Painting represents an illustration given to this man by God about this woman. So this man in my dream that wanted to be with me, he had caught wind of the type of woman that he was with. The Lord had given him a prophetic illustration of the woman that he was dealing with. It painted a picture of a Jezebel spirit that looked similar to her, and he kept it in his journal, and she was trying to retrieve it. This painting was a prophecy. It was a vision, the likeness of this woman in the spirit. She was trying to recover what had been revealed about her in the secret place. She didn't want anyone to see it. Because she could not recover her image, she tried to take personal information about me and use it against me because she was mad. Since you have that, I'm going to use this. But I took it from her, and she did all of this unbeknownst to him. This is just like the enemy, right? When the enemy can't have you anymore, he starts coming after you. You realize the person the Lord has been telling you about is exactly who the Lord showed you that they were. And that called off his engagement had exposed the truth. He knew some truth about her, and he called off his engagement. It was also because the Lord had prophesied to him about the woman he was in a relationship with. He knew that the woman he was with was a Jezebel. He had drawn an illustration in his journal about her, and he had exposed the truth about her, even though he did not communicate with me. And so her coming to me was her trying to cover up her image, her trying to do damage control. Because she could not fully recover her image or paint herself in the way she wanted to be seen, she tried to take personal information about me, drag me. She tried to start a smear campaign, but I did not release the information that she wanted. And that's just like the enemy. The enemy never lets us go without a fight. The enemy is like, oh, you're going to walk away from me. You're going to walk away. Okay, well, I'm going to do this to you. I'm going to attack this. I'm going to attack that. If this is going to take you away from me, then this is what I'm going to attack. So the very thing that the Lord is pulling you closer to, he's going to be at war with that. These Jezebel spirits that are connected to your wife or your husband, the Lord is going to prophesy something to them. He is giving them wind. Do not think that the Lord is not showing people who they're in a relationship with. This woman's image had been tarnished by the truth in some way. There were things about this relationship, about this engagement, I was not aware of because it looked a certain way with my physical eyes, but in the spirit, it was a whole bunch of other stuff going on. But knows to me, the Lord had already given this man getting wind about the woman he was dealing with, and he had this prophetic illustration and drawn a picture of the likeness of her in the spirit, and she looked like a Jezebel demonic spirit. Okay, this was the truth about her. The woman had realized her image had been tarnished. The truth about her had been exposed, and people could see her for what she actually was, and she was trying to recover her image. She was trying to make it so that she could make herself look better again in some way. And because she could not undo the damage that had been done by the truth being exposed, she tried to tarnish the image of the other woman that he decided to be with. She tried to form those weapons, but they did not prosper. Man didn't just walk away simply because he wanted to pursue this woman and he was just so in love with her. And it seemed sudden to me, but it wasn't sudden for him, but it was sudden for me. It wasn't sudden, right? He had known all these things about this woman he was engaged to, but him seeing me was confirmation. Him seeing me was simply confirmation. There is something that is going to confirm to a lot of these people that they need to walk away. There is something that's going to confirm that a lot of these people need to follow Christ, want to be reconciled back to Christ. There is a life they are living. There are people that they are attached to, that the Lord is giving them prophetic visions. He's giving them prophetic dreams about the people they're connected to. And he's like, he's showing them the likeness of them in the spirit. He's showing them the demonic entities attached to them. He's showing them the agenda attached to these people. And some of them are kind of like, I don't know. But it isn't going to be until they run into purpose that they understand that this is something they must leave behind, because they will no longer have the counterfeit. They will come into contact with the real thing. Lastly, let's talk about the spiritual mother. Woman also represents his past. She is a meddler, she's a voice of reason, and she represents the world. This woman tried to remind him of all the times I walked away from him, told him it would be better to settle because the woman he was with would put up with him. She would not require him to be better or leave this world behind. She did not want to see this young man get hurt because of certain expectations she knew that I had. In the past, he was immature and didn't have the best track record, and his mother knew about this. It was better for him to remain mediocre and stay with a worldly woman he knew he did not want to be with or love as a form of self-preservation, than pick up his cross and die to himself. She did not want him to take the risk and walk the narrow path. Remember the scripture where the Lord told the man to sell all that he had in his possession and to pick up his cross and follow him. His mother was concerned about him taking this narrow path. His mother was concerned about him doing this thing because she knew the requirements in order to walk this path, and she did not think he was capable of doing it. So him being with me, I was a woman that was seemingly out of his league, a woman that required more work, a woman that required him to be more of a man. The woman that he was with at the time did not require that much of him, and she was okay with what he was. I was a woman that people did not believe that he should be with because I was closer to holiness. Things that are required to be with me require him to pursue godly things. You don't want to do that. Just stay with the woman that's going to accept you as you are. Be self-preserving. Deal with the woman who's gonna stay with you no matter what. Don't deal with the woman who's gonna bring you closer to God and require you to pick up your cross and require you to die to yourself. Don't take that path. Just stay where you're at. It's comfortable here. You don't have to worry about losing anything. You don't have to worry about struggling. You don't have to worry about certain expectations or meeting certain criteria. You can just be who you are, right? You can stay in sin. You don't have to leave, right? And this woman that he's trying to pursue requires him to be more holy, and this is something he wants to pursue. But some people did not realize that it was more than me. It was more so about purpose. It was about God. It wasn't just simply about a woman, even though they only saw the woman. A lot of people were scoffing at him for trying to be with me. They said the world is safer. Following the world is safer. Following Jesus is more riskier. So like I said in the one video, a lot of you guys are getting ready to get married very soon. It's going to be sudden. It's going to be suddenly. Some of these engagements are going to be so sudden. It's going to come out of nowhere. For you, it may come out of nowhere, but for your spouse, it may not come out of nowhere, right? And some of you guys really need to be praying against fear of abandonment, fear of failure. I went to dinner and my uncle looked at me and he said, get the thing that you want to get that's unfamiliar to you and try it, because it's like you don't ever want to wonder what would have happened if you hadn't done it, right? And that not only applies to just taking risk in life and taking risk with God, you know, doing the things the Lord wants you to do, but also not being afraid to do things in life, not being bound by fear, not being bound by anxiety, not being bound by, you know, the wound of abandonment and the things that happened to you in your past life that are keeping you from living life, that are keeping you from expanding your joy, that are keeping you from experiencing good friendships and love. You need to be praying that those things do not interfere with your union or keep you from giving your spouse a chance. Some of you may come in contact with somebody that you don't want to give them a chance, right? Or this may be somebody from your past who you've given a chance before and you were like, no, right? And now the Lord is bringing them back, a new creation, a new creature, and you're like, no, you're still being skeptical. So allow the Lord to deal with that fear of abandonment, that fear of failure, right? And do not allow it to interfere with the things the Lord wants for you. Be willing to take the risk, because the Lord has taken so many risks on us. His love for us is so great. He would never set us up to be in a position where we would get hurt, where we would be crushed, where we would fail, right? He would never set us up to do that. Also need to be praying against Jezebel spirits, praying against the influence of Jezebel spirits from being in his ear. You also need to be praying for a man who is certain, praying for a man that has the love of Christ for you, praying for a man who is so sure about you that he's never been sure about anything else in his life. If you're a man, you need to be praying for your ability to be sure about the woman the Lord wants you to marry. You need to be praying about your surety, your confidence. Like, is this really the woman that the Lord has for me? Because you don't want to go into a situation not being sure about a woman. You don't want to go into a situation being confused, right? You want to make sure that this is exactly who the Lord has for you. And it's more important for the man to be sure than a woman, right? Okay, a man got to have his mind made up. Some women can have their mind made up, and because we're hormonal and we emotional, sometimes we still be like, okay, I was sure yesterday, I don't know about today. But a man being sure and having his mind made up provides so much peace and security within a relationship. He has this unwavering faith in his purpose with this woman, and his faith in his marriage and in Jesus Christ, and allowing the Lord to lead the way and understanding that this is something the Lord has for them. So you guys need to be really in deep prayer about these marriages, about all these circumstances that are circling around these things, and understand that just because it looks a certain way, do not rely on your own understanding to perceive what is going on. Because in this dream, I'm like, you just engaged. Don't you gotta detox? Don't you gotta do this? Don't you gotta do that? I wasn't even giving him a chance, right? Because I'm looking at the outside. I'm looking at all these other things that are happening, and I'm like, you don't qualify. So do not allow the outer exterior of something to blind you from the opportunity, and do not allow the fear of abandonment to keep you from taking risk, good risk. Right? And be praying and asking the Lord to usher you and order your steps when it comes to these situations that may be a little bit scary for you. Do understand the Lord understands your fear. Do understand the Lord understands your nervousness that comes with getting married and committing to this person, and the expectations that you may have of yourself. And do understand that all these expectations that you may make up in your mind, that's not the Lord. It's you. All these unrealistic expectations, all this pressure, that's us. That's not the Lord. Seek the Lord always. Put your trust in the Lord, okay? Do not be fearful, okay? Understand that he loves you. Understands that even if this is not about marriage for you, that it's about Jesus wanting to be reconciled with you, and Jesus wanting to be close to you and have a relationship with you and be on the same page as you again. You to walk away from your old life and follow him, okay? It is possible. It is doable. I'm telling you guys that a lot of these women are popping out married. There are so many kingdom marriage girlies that are married. Their marriages have been birthed forth. And I'm so happy for so many of them. And so many men are proposing. They're like, yep, I'm sure. A lot of these marriages are sudden. A lot of these people are getting married suddenly. These connections are happening suddenly. And for a lot of people who have been praying for marriage, who have nobody in their life, who don't have anybody, in their face right now, that could potentially propose to them, having somebody suddenly come into your life and do all of these things and love you in the same way Christ loved you can be overwhelming. It can be scary. It can give you some type of fear. It can trigger your abandonment, your fight or flight. So the Lord wants you to know that he understands. I think I also made a video about this in the summertime where I was saying that some people were going to be nervous, that some people were going to be scared, when these proposals came. The people who were going to be proposing to them were going to kind of maybe feel some type of way. They were going to feel kind of rejected. But do understand that a lot of these people are dealing with like a fear of abandonment, a fear of failure, and it's not that they don't want to get married. It's just that they're kind of working through those things. A lot of CPTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And that's something to consider. Everybody has their own trauma, and some people are going to be working through their trauma for the rest of their lives. It's not even the fear of commitment, but the fear of failing within a commitment is what scares them, what could trigger them, because some of these men that are going to be proposing, to consider that, to consider that some of these women are going to be afraid, that some of these women are going to be nervous, when you propose and when these things will be brought forth, even though this is something they've been praying for, this is something they've been wanting for a long time. The nerves are there. The pre-wedding jitters are going to be there. The fear, what if this doesn't work? Or what if we got this wrong? All that stuff is going to come up, and that's normal. But do understand the Lord understands exactly how you feel, but do understand the Lord is ordering your steps, and he will not put you in a situation for you to fail. Okay, my name is Abria Serenity. If you haven't already, click that like and subscribe button and turn on those notifications so you don't miss any more uploads from me. I love you all with the love of the Lord, and I'll see you guys next time.